What's going on, everybody? This is Odinkai2112 doing a cameo story for your ass's mind while he is on vacation. I have been racking my brains to come up with an entertaining story for story time, and I have realized that by and far, after I became a father and an adult, I really have shitty stories. So I'll have to take you back to a time of my high school years and give you a tale of why you should always take bros before hoes. To give you all some brief background, I grew up in a small mountain community where the high school was basically 350 to 400 kids, including all 13 grades, K through 12. So you can imagine my graduating class was only about 20 to 25 kids, and everyone in the school knew everyone else. So as a senior, you truly ran the school, unlike in the city where there are hundreds and hundreds of students to a graduating class. So over the 4 years it consisted of high school, I was pretty tight with 5 guys from my class and 3 to 4 guys from the class 2 years older than I was. We had to tie into the older guys because one of my friend's older brothers. All 7 of us referred to ourselves as the crew, which looking back on it now seems a little haughty, but we were all pretty dedicated to one another. My 4 best friends were Rih, Squeeb, and Guth. Throughout our high school careers, we did some pretty off-the-wall shit, and of course, we partied as much as we could when we were able to get someone's older sibling to buy us alcohol. This story was during our senior year, and Rih, who was not only our starting baseball pitcher, but our high school quarterback, was dating this slightly chunky girl by the name of Bess, and for weeks had been coming up with excuses about how he couldn't hang out and party with us. He hadn't even been raising hell on the weekends like normal. See, the only thing to really do when you live in the rural mountains of Colorado in the early 90s was to drink and raise hell. Now the thing about Rih was that even though he tried to act like he was on board with the partying, he usually pussed out. You know the type of guy I'm talking about, the one that sits at the party and nurses the same beer for hours and then acts like he is buzzed when he is approached. So we nagged him to come to the party with us this night. And when he finally relented, we were all ecstatic because he had been blowing us off for weeks. So we had all gathered at one of the houses we usually partied at, which just happened to be up the road from Rih's house. And we were all going to work on finishing the keg that one of us had nabbed from a party. A few beers into it, lo and behold, one of us called Rih to see where he was and got the word that Rih's mother had decided that he had to stay home for one bullshit reason or another. Now, it's been close to 20 years, so I can't exactly remember the reason, but I do remember that the excuse was pretty paper thin. I remember sitting around and making the observation that we all knew exactly where that fucker was, and that we should take what remained of the keg and go see if my suspicions were true. So we all piled into Az's truck, tossed the keg in the back, and drove down to where Rih lived to confirm if he had once again ditched us for his girlfriend. There were 4 of us total crunching through the woods that night, and sure as shit, Mama and Papa Rih were nowhere to be seen. And there in the driveway was Bess's Subaru wagon. So we decided to hold up in the woods and drink some of the keg and figure out what we were going to do about one of our brothers putting his pussy connection before the rest of us. You see, the thing is not that he was ditching us for a piece of ass. We all agreed that when it came to getting laid, pussy was king. The problem was that he had to be a sneaky little lying bitch and tell us some bullshit story instead of the truth. So as the time went on and we became more and more intoxicated, and of course more and more annoyed, me, being one of the most vindictive ones of our group, I suggested that we go down and let all the air out of one of the tires of his girlfriend's car. That'd show her, it wasn't our boy's fault that he wasn't there, it was all her fault. We all sat there laughing like assholes because we envisioned our boy walking his girl out, giving her a kiss goodnight, and then having to change a flat tire. We all snuck down and unscrewed the valve stem and slowly let the air out of one of the tires. We didn't really want to ruin the tire, we just wanted to have to make him change it. Giggling like drunk schoolgirls, we retreated to the woods to watch the festivities. Of course, when you are inebriated, time seems to go faster than it actually does, and to us we'd been waiting there for hours. During which the idea came up, why not let the air out of all the tires? So once again, we all ran down through the trees and commenced letting the air out of all the tires. But this time, 3 of us were pretty buzzed, and we all stomped back to our keg to sit down and wait. Finally, after what seemed like a small eternity, the outside light snapped on and out comes the 2 lovebirds. Our boy walked his girlfriend out to her car and gave her a long, leisurely kiss goodnight. Sitting in the woods, trying like hell keep from bursting out laughing, we awaited the payback of him noticing flat tires, and of course having to change them. In our current state of mind, it never occurred to us that most people only have a single spare, and that chances are all that would have happened would be that he would have to drive her home. We never in a million years thought that neither one of them would notice the flat tire. Now keep in mind they were not all 100% flat, so what happened was she got in her car, started it up, turned around and drove away on 4 almost flat tires. He turned around and walked back inside. As soon as he was out of sight, all 4 of us were rolling on the ground laughing our asses off because she basically drove off with 4 flats and neither one of them noticed. We continued to drink a few more beers when lo and behold, here comes our boy out of his house, hops in his car and drives off. At this point, we decided to call it a night. We found out later that he had to go get her because all 4 of the tires had finally went flat on her way home, ruining 2 of the rims. So the moral of this story is if you want to get pussy and blow off your boys, at least tell them the truth. They don't care that you're blowing them off to get laid. It's only when you lie to them about why you are blowing them off do they seek revenge.